Now at 9, an entertainment group announces plans to build a $2 billion theme park in Northeast Oklahoma. Plus,
a look into the lives of homeless people in Pittsburgh. I'm Fernanda Silva, and I'll show you how local residents are getting together to make a difference.
And how an employee at Mercy Hospital in Carthage is taking steps to become a leader in the future.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Dow Quick. A massive new theme park is coming to Northeast Oklahoma. The developers and state officials made the announcement at a news conference today. The developer is American Heartland, an affiliate of Mansion Entertainment Group founded by Gene Bicknell. More than $2 billion resort destination will be in Craig County, just west of Grand Lake on Route 66. Developers say the American Heartland theme park and resort will be a 1,000-acre development with a 125-acre theme park. They say it'll feature an Americana-themed environment with a variety of rides, live shows, waterways, and restaurants. They also plan a 300-room hotel and indoor water park. They say it'll create more than 4,000 jobs. Bicknell, who is well known for developments and donations in southeast Kansas, says this new Oklahoma project could lead to other projects in the future.
It will attract other developments. It will spread. I know it will spread across this country and perhaps beyond. But our hope is to bring opportunity. Our hope is to bring peace and joy. And there's not a lot to be joyful about today for many people.
There will be indoor rides, what we call the dark rides, animations and things. There's roller coasters. There's the Barnstormer, which is immersive place. There's all kinds of activities, and we're still developing those. Just the big wooden roller coasters. We're not trying to compete with anybody. We're not trying to say we're the next anything other than we are the American Heartland theme park.
Today's news conference featured this scale model of the attraction. The development will be built in phases, starting with a large-scale RV park, with cabins scheduled to open phase 1 in spring of 2025. The theme park and resort are scheduled to open in 2026. You can find much more about the plan at KOAMnewsnow.com. Now let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy for a first look at the weather.
Well, of course, it was another hot one for us today. Temperatures, they got up there. At least we stayed below that triple-digit mark, 97. So psychologically, it was cooler. Average high or normal high is 91 degrees. Not a whole bunch going on. We had a few little showers kind of skirting our northern counties, but we are tracking thunderstorms out across the western third of the state of Kansas. And eventually, those are going to get in here later on tonight. It's still warm. Most of us are sitting into the mid-80s. Heat indices, upper 80s to still near 100 once you get down toward Grand Lake and also Veneta. As we go through the night, pretty quiet for the next several hours, but once we get after midnight into the early morning hours, some scattered showers and thunderstorms will start to work into the region into the early morning hours. So we're going to be talking about this plus another batch tomorrow night, all coming up here in just a bit.
See you soon. McDonald County, Missouri authorities this morning investigated a home shooting. It happened around 9:30 near Buffalo Creek in the Beeman Hollow area. Authorities say 2 family members returned to their home, found a man inside their house. They say the man fired a gun at the homeowner and the 2 residents shot back. The suspect was hit twice. No word yet on charges or the name of the suspect. A head-on crash near Avila, Missouri claims the life of a man and baby. That crash happened last night on Missouri 96 near the intersection of Missouri 97. Authorities say 32-year-old Wyatt Cady of Ash Grove was driving his truck when he went off the road, overcorrected, and hit a car head-on. Wyatt Cady died on the scene. Authorities say a baby girl also died. A 3-year-old boy and the driver of the car, 31-year-old Curtis Forrest of Republic, suffered serious injuries. A meeting is scheduled for tomorrow to discuss the homeless situation in Pittsburgh. The goal is to educate the community and help residents understand what can be done to support local homeless people. KOAM's Fernanda Silva has the story.
It was after family problems and a mental health breakdown that Brendan Collins found himself calling Pittsburgh's streets home.
When I became homeless, I refused to give up hope that I'd have a future, and I refused to give up hope in my past.
All his belongings are now inside 10 shopping carts. The carrier also serves as a shelter for him when needed.
Used it as shelter since there's no camping in town. You can't have a tent set up. You can't have anything to keep you from the elements. However, you can protect your stuff from the elements by tarping it. So you make a little bit of space and utilize that.
The city of Pittsburgh doesn't have an overnight shelter. For the homeless people I've talked to, the support would be a great way to make them feel safer.
It would give us the ability to have that moment to breathe, to be able to feel safe and to be able to sort things out in our head.
They wouldn't be out here on the streets. Having them look for a job during the day would help them a lot too.
Brennan and Mandy are not alone. Wesley House in Pittsburgh estimates that there are more than 130 homeless people in Crawford County.
Any of our other goals in health or employment, corrections is not going to be successful without having a consistent and safe night's place to sleep and store your items, take your medications as prescribed.
Seeing the situation homeless people are facing in Pittsburgh, Nicole Hembling decided to take action. She's organizing a meeting to discuss the homelessness situation in Pittsburgh. The goal is to educate the community and help residents understand what can be done to support local homeless people.
Really a grassroots movement to try to see if there's anything that we can come together on, and just really seeing if we can collaborate and do something as a community that's maybe privately funded.
Just really educating our community about what homelessness is and how we are working on goals to end homelessness, basically.
In Pittsburgh, Fernanda Silva, KOAM News.
The meeting is open to business and property owners tomorrow at 5 p.m. at Reese Nichols Sunflower Realty Group. That's at 513 North Broadway. You can find more information about it on our website. That's KOAMnewsnow.com. An employee of Mercy Hospital Carthage hit a milestone on her path to becoming a leader for the hospital. April Hansen has worked for Mercy Carthage since 2013. She started as a lab manager before becoming the quality manager in 2020. Today, the hospital held a ceremony to congratulate her for completing the National Rural Health CEO program. It's a year-long program aimed at training people to lead rural hospitals successfully.
Just that the people inside your building are so very important. They're what make the whole thing work, and making sure that we're meeting the needs of our patients and our coworkers really are our top tier of things that we need to evaluate.
The program has 4 building blocks: leadership performance, operational performance, financial performance, and clinical performance. Coming up, another possible tool in the fight against fentanyl.
Can CBD compounds help combat drug overdoses? I'm Kevin Cork. I've got those details coming right up.
With drug overdose deaths still alarmingly high across our country, researchers are trying to develop new treatments to help prevent more deaths. Fox News correspondent Kevin Cork takes a look at how CBD compounds could offer hope and why scientists are experimenting with cannabis-related material in the fight against synthetic opioids.
We are facing a public health crisis.
Drug overdoses continue straining families and healthcare systems nationwide. The CDC says synthetic opioids like fentanyl are one of the main factors behind the recent increases in drug overdose deaths.
Right now, fentanyl is the leading cause of death among 18 through 42-year-olds in our country, the leading cause of death.
According to the National Institutes of Health, when someone takes fentanyl, the drug binds to the person's opioid receptors in their brain. And while the opioid overdose reversal drug, naloxone, is being used to save lives, some scientists say fentanyl is just too strong, and more than one dose of naloxone may be needed to reverse its effects.
Naloxone is a competitive antagonist. It competes with the fentanyl drugs for binding at the same site on these opiate receptors.
But researchers from Indiana University have been experimenting with dozens of different compounds in order to find alternative overdose treatments that might better respond to synthetic opioids. So far, the team found altered forms of CBD compounds from cannabis plants seem to show promising results in reducing just how much fentanyl binds to opioid receptors. The team hopes to build on their findings and begin testing their compounds' effects on animals to ensure it's safe for human trials in the future. I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
New study finds people with bipolar disorder are 6 times more likely to die from accidents, violence, or suicide. Research published in BMJ Mental Health shows alcohol is a major contributing factor. Doctors say programs designed to prevent substance abuse could likely reduce the number of lives lost from external causes. Doug is next with a complete look at the forecast, and later several Crowder College baseball standouts are committing to play at bigger universities. We'll break it all down in sports.
Well, it definitely turned out to be another hot one for us today. Temperatures upper 90s. At least we stayed below 100, so psychologically that is better. Partly cloudy skies. In fact, the clouds kept us down a couple notches for us today. Nice shot, Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Looks pretty good out there this evening. All right, temperatures right now, we're still into the mid 80s. It's still warm. It's still muggy across the region. Look at the winds. So we have southerly winds and you have easterly winds. So we have a weak boundary kind of draped across the region. And what that's going to do is help fire off some showers and thunderstorms a little bit later on tonight. None right now, of course, 85. Heat index sitting at about 89 degrees. And look at our heat indices. It's still 101 in Bonita, Nowata sitting at 100. Feels like 91 in Cassville. Stockton, it feels like 92 degrees. Now, we've had some clouds, had a few little showers that skirted our northern counties earlier today, but right now everybody is dry and should stay dry as we go through the next several hours. But some thunderstorms trying to fire along the I-70 corridor, and then a bigger batch once you get out into western parts of Kansas, and it's that cluster we're going to keep our eyes on as we go through the overnight hours tonight. Still dominated by this big dome of high pressure giving us the heat and the humidity, but this is going to start to retreat back toward the west. That's good news because that allows our temperatures to go down as we go through the next couple days. All right, let's step through time. Stop at 1:30 in the morning. Few random showers, but it's later tonight. Here's 3:30 in the morning. Not a big cluster, small cluster heads toward us. It looks to be mainly along the Kansas-Oklahoma state line. Of course, we're in this pattern. We've been in it for 10 months, so very similar tracks. But scattered thunderstorms. So here's 5 o'clock in the morning, still some scattered thunderstorms, 7, 8 a.m., and then they're gone. We still have a lot of clouds until the noon hour, and then once we get into the afternoon, we'll get sunshine back. It's still going to be hot, but not as hot. 79 to start, 86 by noon, 91 by 5 p.m. We get those northerly winds at about 5 to 10. Then we focus out west again tomorrow night. Another batch, showers, thunderstorms. Here's 3 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning, another band pushes through, and this will have the potential to be a little bit more widespread, so that's good news. Out of here Friday morning, and then by Friday afternoon, looking pretty good, even cooler, upper 70s to lower 80s, which we can definitely handle. All right, rainfall amounts over the next 2 nights. Again, these are scattered, so this is just an estimate of what could fall. But I think a lot of areas could get 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, but there could be some spots that get 1 inch or 2 across the region, which would be nice to see. 93 tomorrow, only 82 on Friday with a lot of clouds. Saturday, humidity is not going to be bad. High temp at 90, back to 95 on Sunday. Triple-digit heat again next week.
It doesn't take long for things to dry out when it hits triple digits. Whatever rain we get, we need.
We definitely need.
Thanks, Doug. Coming up, keeping an eye on your retirement savings.
Changes coming to your retirement deductions. I'm Jerry Willis in New York with what it means this year and next.
idea.
The Federal Trade Commission announced a new effort called Operation Stop Scam Calls to crack down on illegal telemarketing. The initiative goes after people who provide telephone numbers to robocallers. Authorities say these so-called lead generators have sold more than 700 million phone numbers, often lying about the owners having consented to receive telemarketing calls. The effort also targets companies that provide voice-over internet protocol services. Changes are coming to what's allowed for 401k contributions. Fox Business Network's Jerry Willis has that story.
Millions of Americans are set to take a hit when changes to a much-used retirement deduction kicks in next year. Right now, workers over the age of 50 are able to make catch-up contributions to their 401ks worth up to $7,500 each year. The annual cap on all contributions, $30,000. But because of new rules Congress passed beginning next year, people earning more than $145,000 will no longer be able to put those payments into a traditional 401k. Instead, the money will be funneled into a Roth IRA, and that means workers' catch-up contributions will be made with after-tax dollars rather than pre-tax dollars. The change impacts many people. Vanguard estimates 16% of eligible taxpayers took catch-ups in 2022. The change, however, may be delayed. More than 200 employers and 401k record keepers recently sent a letter to Congress saying they won't be able to meet the deadline and might have to discontinue offering catch-up options. Some planners saying paying taxes up front on retirement dollars, that's good because savers will face no tax bill at retirement. But some savers were betting that they'd be in a lower tax bracket at retirement. In New York, Jerry Willis, Fox Business.
Up next, we're going to learn how an artist created these massive frescoes on the side of a Swiss mountain. A Swiss-French artist creates splendor in the grass and shows how children draw up their world. It's amazing. Take a look. The artist known as Sapie painted, two children into the grass slopes of a Swiss mountain using two art tools, chalk and charcoal. The drawings feature a young boy and girl tracing lines on sketch pads to depict mountains, stars, trees, and the moon. The drawings are done at different altitudes, but Sapie says they complement each other. The grass frescoes can last days, assuming no one forgets and accidentally mows the lawn, and they can be seen from nearby pastures. Wow. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. The Pittsburgh Community Theater holds a media night for their upcoming performance of Disney's Descendants, plus how a new Missouri law could give seniors a break on property taxes. The Bourbon County, Kansas Fair is in full swing. Today they had contests for dairy cattle, beef cattle, and goats, as well as horticulture. There was also a vendor mart and open class exhibits.
I like to play with my friends, but I think it's also, you get taught responsibility, caring, and keeping your animals tidied up.
Showing a bucket calf and showing a goat. Rainbow and Belle, because Rainbow had a rainbow fur and Belle was a girl.
That fair is going to run through Saturday. Pittsburgh Community Theater will perform Disney's Descendants this weekend, but we got a sneak preview today. The theater hosted its media night. The musical follows the children of classic Disney villains, Cruella de Vil, Maleficent, Jafar, and the evil queen from Snow White.
I really like how the story develops and how it kind of goes from this mission to kind of this reflective thing. So it's really cool how it develops, yeah.
The first public performance of the musical is going to be on Friday at 7:30. Then on Saturday, there will be two performances. The first at 2 p.m., then again at 7:30. And the final performance will be at 2 p.m. on Sunday. You might want to check it out. Tax breaks could be coming for older Missourians in a bill signed by the governor this month. It could mean property tax rates will be frozen for people who qualify. So what exactly does that mean for you? Well, the law would allow counties to decide whether to freeze property taxes for seniors. To qualify, you have to be at least 65 years old or eligible for Social Security benefits and own a home or pay property taxes on a home. The idea, of course, is to save you money. It seems simple enough, but as reporter Francis Watson says, Greene County officials say it's not quite that simple.
All right, I'm ready for it.
Harlan Flippin has been retired for about 2 years.
Property taxes went up about $300 last year, and so that's over. That's just right now. We're both living off our Social Security, so that's a chunk of change.
He's all for saving money on the taxes he pays for his Springfield home. Missouri Senate Bill 190 allows counties to freeze property taxes for seniors who are eligible for Social Security benefits, own a home, or pay property taxes on a home.
I don't sense that there's any hesitancy on the part of my colleagues here in Greene County to go ahead and implement this. The big question for us is, what are we implementing and how are we supposed to do it?
Greene County Presiding Commissioner Bob Dixon says the bill is too vague to put into action.
It's a concept on paper, but it lacks the details that are necessary for counties across the state to implement it.
Greene County Collector Alan Isett agrees.
We've gone through this multiple times and have identified a number of questions that simply need to be answered.
Besides a software update that could take months, Isett says there are no guidelines to establish eligibility. And what happens if property taxes decrease, among other questions.
And that way, we, the collectors, are not having to fill the gaps and make assumptions, because if we do, of the 114 counties, there will be multiple counties that come up with different answers and different processes, which is not the way this should be rolled out.
I think it's bound for legislative cleanup next year. I certainly hope so.
Harlan says waiting for the confusion to clear will be worth it.
We don't mind paying our taxes, don't mind paying stuff for schools and stuff like that for kids or grandkids. But on the other hand, my medicine's gone up, Medicare went up. So, yeah, there got to be some insider relief somewhere.
That law is scheduled to go into effect on August 28th. A federal judge rules Kansas Governor Laura Kelly gets to defend birth certificate changes in court. Governor Kelly argues that the new Kansas law rolling back transgender rights doesn't bar the state from changing the sex listing on transgender people's birth certificates. U.S. District Judge yesterday ruled that Kelly's office can defend her administration's policy of changing birth certificates and accepted its Friends of the Court arguments. Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach argues that a law that took effect July 1st prohibits such changes and requires the state to undo previous ones. Word that former President Trump might be facing his third indictment quickly shook up the GOP primary and forced the candidates and the party to weigh in one way or another on the front-runner's position and peril as the 2024 campaign kicks into gear. Fox News correspondent Lucas Tomlinson has more now from Washington.
Facing the possibility of a third indictment, former President Trump is forging ahead.
I didn't know practically what a subpoena was and grand juries and all of this. Now I'm like becoming an expert. I have no choice because we have to. It's a disgrace.
Addressing a packed crowd of supporters in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Trump downplayed his legal challenges after announcing he's the target of a federal grand jury investigation into his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election.
This appears to be a political witch hunt, and the more indictments that keep getting returned, the more that is being solidified in the eyes of the public.
Following news of his previous indictments, the former president saw a bump in support. But a new University of New Hampshire poll shows Trump's lead has shrunk over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in the key primary state. Still, his closest rival coming to his defense.
This country is going down the road of criminalizing political differences, and I think that's wrong.
But other GOP hopefuls are trying to cut into Trump's lead.
The rest of this primary election is going to be, in reference to Trump, is going to be about lawsuits. We can't keep dealing with this drama.
Lawmakers on the left are calling the move appropriate.
The president was a central figure in an effort to overturn an election, an effort to interfere with a peaceful transfer of power for the first time in our history. And if anyone else had done the things he did, they would be under investigation.
At this point, it remains unclear how much longer this latest investigation will take and what charges Trump could potentially face. In Washington, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
Two IRS whistleblowers testified before the House Oversight Committee this afternoon about the Justice Department's investigation into Hunter Biden. The IRS employees claim there was a pattern of slow walking the investigation in the months before the 2020 presidential election. A bit later, the all-terrain vehicle of the future.
A new 18-wheeled vehicle could speed up recovery efforts after natural disasters. I'm Marianne Rafferty. Details coming up.
Well, of course, another hot one for us today. In fact, it's still warm and kind of muggy outside even for us right now. We have partly cloudy skies. Look at this, sitting at 85, still feels near 90. Relative humidity is at 59%, but our dew point is at 69. So when it gets above 65 in the summer, it feels kind of nasty out there. All right, we have a few clouds kind of shooting through, but not much popping up on the radar. This is all ground clutter. But we are tracking thunderstorms. You can see from Kansas City, light, all the way out until you get to about Hays, Kansas, a bigger cluster. And you can see this is working its way off toward the south and to the east. So hopefully we get some of that rain in here a little bit later on tonight. We've been dominated by this big dome of high pressure giving us the heat, the humidity, but this high is going to start to retreat or retrograde back toward the west, which is going to allow us to cool down just a bit as we go through the next few days. All right, let's step through time. I think most of us dry until midnight, but after 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, some scattered showers and thunderstorms trying to get in here. It's not going to be widespread. It is going to be scattered, but I do think a good chunk of us should get some rain. Here's 5 a.m. Let's go to about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, working through southwestern Missouri, and then we just have clouds as we go through the morning hours. As we get into the afternoon, sunshine kind of pops out. Temperatures start to warm up, not quite as warm as we go into lower 90s for highs. Tomorrow night, we track it again. More thunderstorms try to push in late. Here's 3 a.m. Friday morning. This batch could be a little bit more widespread, but I think it's mainly going to affect the southern half of the region. So showers, thunderstorms into Friday morning. And then cooler temperatures work in by the time we get into Friday afternoon. High temps mainly into lower 80s by the time we get into Friday afternoon. So the next 2 rounds of rain, or the next 2 nights, if we add them together, I think most of us get a quarter, half an inch, but there's going to be some areas that get 1 or 2 inches of rain depending on where these lines set up. All right, 79 to start, mostly cloudy by noon, 86, 91 by 4. High temp of 93 degrees. Let's go down the road. Watch our high. Moves back toward the west. We get a northwest flow. Cools us down a little bit as we head into the weekend. But watch what happens next week. So we're going to go into Monday. That high starts sneaking back toward the east and kind of builds in once again. And what that means is the heat and the humidity really return. 93 tomorrow, some scattered morning storms again on Friday. High temp 82. 90 on Saturday, but at least the humidity is going to be nice. And then 95 Sunday, 100 on Monday, a few hit and miss storms Sunday and Monday, next Thursday and Friday as well. But a pretty good stretch of heat for us next week.
Yeah, and looking at the prospect of 6 consecutive days of triple-digit temperatures, and I don't know what comes after that.
I know. Kind of stinks.
Yes, it does. Thanks, Doug. Coming up in sports highlights from tonight's doubleheader at Joe Becker Stadium. Plus, Cardinals go for a series sweep against playoff contending team. John Dales has those stories and more straight ahead.
Coming and going is the reality of junior college sports at a place like Crowder College right here in the 4 states. And right now, the reality is going for the Rough Rider baseball team. Just under 2 months ago, Crowder's 2023 season came to an end, and ever since then, a lot of its key players have begun to move on to new schools. In just the past week, 3 different baseball student athletes have made commitments to new universities. Starting first with Dawson Tabor. He only pitched 1 game for Crowder in the spring, but the Arkansas native headed closer to home, going to Henderson State. Next up, Joe Hackman, another right-handed pitcher who had a sub-2 ERA this spring. He's moving on to Nebraska Omaha. And catcher Joe Reed, who had a great year at the plate, batting .336 with 46 RBIs. He's on to Loyola Marymount over in California. A busy night over at Joe Becker Stadium. After Friday night's rainout, the Outlaws host a doubleheader against the Sedalia Bombers. Meanwhile, Nevada needs Joplin to win in order for both of them to stay alive in the wild card race. Well, starting first with the Outlaws hosting Sedalia in that doubleheader. Steen Lane from Missouri Southern gets the start on the hill in Game 1, and defense helps him out early with this 6-4-3 double play to keep things scoreless in the first. However, Sedalia does the exact same in the second. We stayed at 0-0 for a long ways into this one. Lane went 6 innings, only allowing 2 hits, no earned runs, but did allow an unearned run. So it was 1-0 Sedalia entering the last inning. That's when things get interesting. Runner on second, pop up into shallow outfield, real no man's land. That ends up dropping down. So now the Outlaws have the winning run on base, nobody out. Cole Hill's the next batter. Base hit into center field, tie game, still nobody out. Runners move on to second and third. Very next batter is a pinch hitter, Landon Meyer. He drives one into the outfield. That's all he needed to do. Caught out there, but the runner is easily going to come home to score. Outlaws walk off Game 1. They win it 2-1. Outlaws look like they're going to lose Game 2 of the doubleheader. Wouldn't have mattered much for their friends up in Nevada anyways, because the Griffins get walloped 9-1 by the Carroll Merchants. Nevada loses 3 in a row this last week. They close out the season at home again against Carroll tomorrow night. And in Major League Baseball, the Cardinals are one of the hottest teams in the league right now. Despite being over 10 games below 500, St. Louis enters today with a 4-game winning streak and a chance to sweep playoff hopeful team in the Miami Marlins. In that one, we start things off in the first inning. No score with Nolan Arenado coming up to the plate. He goes the other way for an RBI single. Paul Goldschmidt rounding third and slides in just ahead of the throw. At home, Cardinals lead 1-0. Very next batter, Nolan Gorman, sends one to deep center, and this one just about as no doubt as you can get. 419 feet, takes Alcantara deep for his 19th homer of the season. Cardinals up 4-0. Ahead to the 6th inning, Cardinals up 4-2 at that point. Yuri Gurriel with the grounder to third, but take a look at that play by Nolan Arenado. Great throw over to first, backhanded stop, throws off his back foot. Into the 7th. Gorman again with the same score at this point. It's a single the other way. Lars Nootbaar comes in to score. Cardinals win it 6-4. It's just the beauty of baseball. Cardinals all year long. Fans have been saying, where's this been? Well, right now they're playing pretty good.
Yeah, Cardinals fans are accustomed to seeing their team get into the postseason.
Exactly.
We'll be right back. There's a new type of 18-wheeler. Fox News correspondent Marianne Rafferty takes a closer look at the unique all-terrain vehicle specially designed to speed over massive rocks, fallen trees, and more. Plus, how it could change the way we rescue people after natural disasters and explore the wilderness.
Armed with 18 wheels, this new type of all-terrain vehicle could revolutionize disaster recovery efforts in the near future. From floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, and more, natural disasters often leave behind long trails of destruction that can be hard for emergency crews to navigate. But engineers in Finland say their 18-wheeled ATV can easily drive over rocks, tree stumps, and other debris more than a foot tall. And it can do it all without severely compromising speed.
There are rovers that can climb over large obstacles, but they do it very slowly, with difficulty, and with great discomfort to the rider.
Each of the 18 wheels has its own suspension system and individual electric motor, allowing the craft to glide over objects without slowing down and sending massive shock waves to the driver. The prototype can travel at around 20 miles per hour over unstable ground, and engineers are working on increasing that speed in future models. And with so many wheels, this ATV could even allow adrenaline junkies to go off-roading in locations that may have previously been uncharted.
Our all-terrain vehicle puts very low pressure on the ground, so it does not damage the soil, grass, and lawn. And this is a very important thing. Ordinary ATVs, for example, are forbidden to drive outside specially prepared areas because they leave a deep rut. they spoil the natural landscape.
Finnish-based 18 Wheels is the company behind the craft. Officials hope to reveal an updated prototype later this year. Marianne Rafferty, Fox News.
Coming up, we're going to tell you about a relationship between a horse and a goat that started with a tangled up situation. The acronym for the greatest of all time is GOAT, and this may be the GOAT of stories involving a goat. Jeannie Most reports on a special bond between a horse and a goat.
Did you hear the one about the goat that got tangled in a horse's tail?
Are you stuck in his tail? How did this happen? I don't know either.
Copper the horse and Jessie the goat are friends who got entangled.
What is your theory for how this happened?
So my theory is that Copper was swatting at a fly with his tail and happened to hook Jessie's horns in it.
Teresa Goins is the owner of Orchard View Farm in Marysville, Ohio, where there's a lot of horsing around between a llama, donkeys, and horses that scratch each other. Not to mention Jessie the goat missing part of her ear after getting it caught while leaping over a barn door. And here she is, caught again, this time on Copper's tail.
Copper, you got a friend, a really close friend right now? Huh?
We'd love to show you the untangling, but Teresa stopped recording since she needed both hands to separate the two.
Well, it was in there good, I'm telling you. She had one horn wrapped this way and the other horn wrapped the opposite way. It took me a couple minutes, but I was so happy I didn't have to cut his tail.
Mission accomplished.
She is free from Copper's tail.
But not before there were a slew of jokes about the goat with an actual ponytail.
I got a ponytail.
This is the moment a horse and a goat learned it takes two to tangle.
Are you stuck in his tail? How did this happen?
And we're going to leave you with that tale tonight. Thanks for joining us. We also leave you with video of bears keeping cool at a sanctuary in Kosovo. Stay cool yourself and let's make it a great tomorrow.